The starship Erebus was a whisper in the dark, a phantom gliding through the unmapped chasms between galaxies. Its engines were a low hum, a distant, mechanical heartbeat against the absolute silence of the void. On board, 12 souls stirred for the first time in a century. They were the crew, shaken from 100 years of cryosleep, their dreams of Earth fading like old photographs. Their mission was the grandest in human history. Journey to Kepler 186f and plant the flag for our species on a new world, a new beginning. But humanity was not alone out here. Something else had awakened with them. Commander Lyra Kale felt it first. It wasn't a sudden jolt or a warning klaxon. It was a subtle shift in the ship's atmosphere, a wrongness that pricked at the edges of her perception. The Erebus, her home for the next lifetime, suddenly felt watched. She'd walk the long sterile corridors, and the shadows would seem to stretch, just a little too far, clinging to corners, bending impossibly, where there should have been only clean polished metal and the steady glow of the light panels. She ran diagnostics, triple-checked the environmental controls, and scanned the ship's exterior. The sensors showed nothing, no anomalies, no malfunctions. And yet, the temperature on the lower decks kept dropping, a persistent, unnatural chill that defied every explanation. The ship was bleeding heat into the void, but the engineers couldn't find the source of the leak. It was as if the cold wasn't coming from outside but from within. Then the blood banks vanished. Medical Officer Ren Hale was a man of meticulous detail. He'd personally overseen the stasis and storage of every unit. Every bag was logged, every vial accounted for. It was the crew's lifeline, their insurance against catastrophe. Now it was gone. The refrigerated storage unit stood open, empty. No alarms had sounded. No locks were forced. Just empty shelves and a faint, cloying metallic scent that lingered in the air recyclers, a ghost of what was lost. Panic, cold and sharp, began to thread its way through the crew. Lyra's voice cut through the rising fear, sharp and commanding. She ordered calm. Logic had to prevail. Space was a psychological battlefield. Isolation, sensory deprivation, fear they could make a mind see monsters in the shadows. This was a test, she told them, a test of their discipline. But logic was already losing. On the fourth cycle after awakening, as the Erebus navigated the treacherous gravity well of a dead star, the ship was plunged into total darkness. The lights, the backup generators, every system went out for exactly 30 seconds. It was a lifetime in the pitch black, filled with held breaths and frantic heartbeats. When the power surged back to life, engineer Tomas Veric was gone. He had been in his quarters, the door still sealed from the inside. They searched for hours, their calls echoing through the silent ship. They found him in the hydroponics bay, nestled among the strange, alien-like plants they were cultivating for the new world. He was alive, but barely. His eyes were wide with a terror that seemed etched onto his very soul, his pulse a faint, slow flutter. Before he slipped into a coma, he managed to whisper a single chilling phrase. "It's not human. It's adapted." That was when Ren Hale finally broke. The medic confessed a secret he had buried deep, a truth he had discovered in the most classified archives before their mission ever launched. The Erebus was not the first ship to attempt this journey. There was another, a predecessor, a ghost ship that never returned. Its final transmission was fragmented, corrupted, but one message got through. It spoke of a discovery, an ancient life form drifting in the interstellar abyss. A creature that didn't feed on planets or stars, but on the fleeting warmth of travelers. A vampire of the void. This was no myth, no legend from old Earth. It was a biological reality, a predator that evolved in the cold, empty spaces between galaxies. It drank blood not for sustenance alone, but because blood carried the essence of life, memory, warmth, and the very flow of time itself. In the timeless vacuum of space, where nothing aged normally, it had learned to hibernate, to wait, to board passing vessels like a cosmic parasite. And now it had boarded the Erebus. It was a master of stealth. It moved through the ship's ventilation shafts, through the briefest moments of darkness, through the blind spots in their vigilance. It was a glitch in the system, a flicker on the screen. The security cameras would fuzz with static whenever it passed. Weapon systems would inexplicably fail when aimed in its direction. It wasn't a rampaging monster. It was far, far more intelligent. It didn't attack in a frenzy. It isolated its prey, draining them slowly, savoring not just the blood, but the fear that came with it. The fear was the spice. Lyra, standing on the bridge, staring out at the endless starfield, finally understood the terrifying truth. The missing blood banks, the chilling corridors, the disappearance of Virikit was all a distraction. They weren't being hunted in the conventional sense. The ship itself wasn't the hunting ground. The ship was the prize. It was being carried. This creature, this ancient stowaway, had latched onto them. As the Erebus prepared to make its final jump to Kepler 186f, the entity settled deep within the ship's hull, a parasite bonded to its host. It was feeding, yes, but only just enough to survive the journey. It didn't want to kill them all, not yet. It wanted to arrive, and so they did. The ship broke from the distorted reality of jump space, emerging into the gentle light of a new sun. Below them, Kepler 186f hung in the darkness like a sapphire jewel, its surface glowing with the promise of life, of water, of a new home. On the bridge, the surviving crew members let out cries of relief and wonder. They had made it. Humanity had made it. Down in the cargo hold, amongst the seeds and the sleepers who would build the new colony, the vampire turned its attention outward. For the first time in millennia, it had found not just a handful of travelers, but an entire world teeming with life. A world full of warm blood that had never known a predator like this. A world that didn't know to be afraid of the dark. The colonists on the surface below would cheer their arrival. They would see the Erebus as a symbol of hope, a messiah from the stars. But as the ship descended, its shadow stretched long and hungry across the pristine landscape. The voyage of the Erebus had ended exactly as the creature had intended. It wasn't just a new beginning for humanity. It was the dawn of a new hunt. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed diving into the dark corners of space and the unknown, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We have many more journeys to take into the shadows.